Let me go.
Hello. Good to see you.
We're just waiting for one or two more folks, so just a couple more minutes. Thanks for your patience.
Thank you very much. You too. Okay. What's up?
Everything going?
Good to see you as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. Pardon me. Good morning, everyone. As the City Council representative for both the Penn Museum and the community that endured the terrible move bombing, I am pleased to be here alongside Mike Africa Jr. and other members of the Africa family and our community. First and foremost, I want to express my deepest condolences to the Africa family. I cannot begin to imagine how deeply painful and re-traumatizing these past few weeks have been for all of you. When Mike initially called me in 2021 to tell me that the Penn Museum had remains from the move bombing and that the museum had been using them for decades as teaching tools and research specimens without the family or community's knowledge, frankly, I thought it was too egregious to really be true. And when I learned that this actually happened, I was sickened, I was dumbfounded, and I was enraged. So it is absolutely unacceptable that we are back in the same situation 3 years later. The Penn Museum apologized for mishandling the move remains in 2021, but talk is cheap. We need the Penn Museum to prove that they mean what they say through action and not just words. Instead, the Penn Museum continues to demonstrate a profound disrespect for Black life and Black death. When activists alerted museum leadership that the institution still possessed the remains of Delisha Africa over a year ago, the museum ignored them. There is absolutely no possible justification for the museum's barbaric treatment of a Black child's body, or their dismissive behavior towards those fighting to give Delisha some semblance of peace in death. We understand that the Penn Museum is a research institution and is used to slow, methodical studies that take years. But they need to realize that this is not an academic project. There is real trauma and pain here that needs to be taken seriously and addressed swiftly. The Africa family deserves light is a slap in the face to the Africa family and our community at large. It is past time for the Penn Museum to work in a real and authentic way with the Africa family and community to quickly review the museum's entire inventory and return Delisha's remains and any other move bombing remains in the museum's possession to their family or community so that they can finally be put to rest. And most importantly, the Penn Museum needs to learn a very important lesson. In life or in death, it is never okay to use Black bodies as trophies or to enrich an institution. Thank you so much.
I want to move. First, I want to say thank you to Councilwoman Jamie Gauthier for her steadfast position, for her tireless work, and for the support in this and many other instances for myself and my family. Thank you. I want to say that I don't really have a long speech. I don't have a lot to say. But the things that I want to say are very important to the MOVE organization. On May 13th, 1985, when the city of Philadelphia dropped a bomb on our house, killed 11 people, 5 of them were children, and then took our house from us through eminent domain, which we're still trying to fight to get back. They stole the remains of many people. It wasn't just Patricia Dotson, Tree Africa. It wasn't just Delisha. We have documentation that says, the wording is gruesome. But I'll give you some of it so that you understand the level of harm and trauma and pain and violence that the MOVE organization had experienced at the hands of law enforcement here in Philadelphia. Some of the bodies were said to not be identifiable because according to these reports from some of the medical examiners, they say too many heads and torsos were missing. When we uncovered some of the evidence, we learned that a Penn student by the name of Jane Weiss did a dissertation. She wrote a dissertation about Delisha Africa. And in that dissertation is an x-ray of 12-year-old Delisha Africa's head. In 2021, when the city and Penn said they were going to do all they could to get our family members' remains back to us, they did turn over some things. But I can tell you that as the great nephew of John Africa, who was one of the bodies that was buried without a head, when they returned the remains of John Africa, they did not return his head. So we are still being lied to and continuously harmed and outraged by the fact that our family members' remains have still not been turned over to us. I have the receipts, I have the documentation, and I have the bags that John Africa's remains were given to me in. not big enough to fit his head. Documentation also shows that the remains of the people that are headless, it was not caused by a bomb. It was not caused by any of the 10,000 rounds of ammunition that was fired. It was not caused by the fire that burned over 2,000 degrees. It was caused by a person who actually used a saw to decapitate John Africa. Throughout my investigation of this entire situation since 2021, I've learned with my team that the Penn Museum is not only responsible for stealing the remains of Patricia and Delisha. We know that they're not being honest and forthright because our documentation indicates that there is a third set of remains from Patricia Dotson, Africa's sister, who was also 12 years old. And potentially, her remains have been studied and processed to the point where they possibly were ground down to dust. I read on the news and social media that there was an activist named George Conscious Lee. He made a post talking about the bombing of Move. And in that post, in the comment section, a person, Muslim of all things, said, the Move organization was bombed the way they were because they used their children as shields. If anybody's ever met any member of the Move organization and seen us around our kids, you know we love our kids. And our parents loved us. They made mistakes, they did things that were wrong, they were trying to find a new way of doing things. But they loved us deeply. And this type of discrimination and defamation is why these things are allowed to happen and people get away with impunity. I mean, it is. That's the perfect word. It is criminal. That brings me to my next point. Part of the demands of the Move organization, Janet Africa, the mother of Delisha, the 12-year-old girl, she said, "You can't give me any money. Penn can't give her anything. We only accept the work to help us free our last man standing, the last person that is in prison, the last member of our family, Freeman Diabu Jamal." And I'm calling for the remains to be turned over to us of my great uncle on behalf of the Africa family, on behalf of the Lee Park family. John Africa has sisters and brothers that are still here, that are aging, and they want their brother home. The last thing I'll say is that the bombing of Move happened nearly 40 years ago. And there are still a lot of family members here of those people. I just spoke to Teresa Africa's sister yesterday. And standing to my right behind me right here, is Yvonne. She is Delisha Africa's sister. And she is also devastated by what happened to her sister, whom she never got to grow with and know because Delisha's life was taken so violently. And I would love to give her a chance to speak about her feelings at this moment. Thank you for coming. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Mark.
Greetings. I am a community member, yes. I am a daughter, yes. I too am a sister. I am Yvonne Malika Koswa, or daughter of Delaware, Africa, blood sister to Delisha Africa. I remember the day she was born. I remember the joy on my father's face. I remember our times playing in the yard together, holding hands. I remember us sharing dreams of what we would do and become, and eating fresh fruits from soil that we did and cultivated ourselves. I remember being ostracized and told that I had to go back home to Chicago because they would not allow us to just be simply happy children. I'm a daddy's girl, always have been. I remember fighting for 18 months to get the prison to treat my father and give him chemotherapy, give him a diagnosis for cancer, such that by the time that he was excavated, so to speak, on January 18th, 2020, the doctor asked us and literally shed tears, why would you wait so long to come in for treatment? My life changed inexplicably on August 8th, 1978. I did not understand how 9 men, women could be charged with the killing of a police officer holding one gun. I did not understand how hundreds of thousands of gallons of water could be pumped into a basement even after babies had been stomped and killed. I'm going to repeat that. Even after babies had been stomped and killed. And yet, every single gun that came out of that facility was blood dry, just dry. But you had hundreds of gallons of water. I sought to go into studying political science, which I did. I sought to go into studying science, which I did. I sought to go into studying religion, which I did because I needed understanding as to how such a travesty could happen on my American soil. I am also the daughter of Christina Chuckles May, Minister of Culture for the Illinois Black Panther Party. I'm born in Ontario, Canada, because she could not stay in our own place. We came to Philadelphia together. Because of the different factions of the Illinois Black Panther Party and the MOVE organization, my mother left and returned. I stayed with my father because, as I said, I'm a daddy's girl. So there might be some things that we want, which is, of course, the freedom of my uncle, Mumia Abdul-Jamal. But when I tell you, I want you to take a moment to imagine your daughter, your sister, being cooked and burned alive, screaming, trying to get out of a house, balling up because there's nothing else that she can do. And then when others tried to escape, being shot back into that burning fuselage. I want you to think about that. Could you live through that for your own family member, your blood? I did. I cannot express properly the anger that I have, so I smile my way through it. But I want you to know that when you look at us, we are not animals, we are not savages. We started organic soil movement. We started fresh fruits, fresh vegetables, and was ostracized for it. And before these 2 bouts of cancer, you best believe my locks were loud and proud down to my knees. But I'm a survivor. What I will no longer tolerate is being in the back, whether I'm raised to assimilate or not. So when my father died and I explained to this great city that I am coming for you, I meant it. I want that to sit with you. You have burned alive and shot back into a burning home 11 men, women, and children, and did nothing outside of our gratefulness to you, but apologize and put up a plaque. Is that enough if that were your mother, your daughter, your father, your sister? So, apology accepted, I guess, the same way that you would step on somebody's toe. It's domestic terrorism. It is criminal. I want the people held accountable. I want them arrested. to rest.
If anybody have any questions, we're going to answer.
Majority remains there now, a couple weeks ago, and they can make a return to the family at this point.
Not that I know of, no.
I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about some of the documentation you were referencing about the treatment of the African family remains. And I was also wondering if you could elaborate on anything that Penn said to the organization about their plans or about what they found or how they found it.
Well, I spoke to Chris Woods, who's the president of the Penn Museum, and he said that he was going to do all that he could to help find any remains of our family members. He told me that it was hard to find Delisha's remains because they were placed inside of an unmarked box that was also placed inside of another unmarked box that was tucked away in a corner of the museum. And he said that he believed that it was deliberately hidden. The reason we know what we know up to this point is because Janet Lange and Alan Mann were not secretive about what they were doing. They made videos that they posted on YouTube for their students and for other people in, I guess, the anthropology world. Losing adventures in real bones, losing personhood. And they talked about, they held them, and they smelled them, and they discussed them. And the same way that they carried on this way, they made documentation of what they were doing, as if they were doing nothing wrong. So the documents that we have, we got from their paper trails. We didn't conjure these ideas of what they had. Their paper trail and some of their students brought the information to us. And as far as John Africa and his remains, that was documented because there was discrepancies in the findings and the investigation from one anthropologist to another who said, we're trying to sift through this, but there was a secret autopsy done before the medical examiners got involved, and they don't know who did it, but someone stole at least 4 heads. And Ronald Castillo and Joan Wiener and these other people involved in a potential grand jury, they admitted to knowing and hearing about and reading about this information. And it was written about in the legal intelligentsia. And so this information has just been their paper trail. It's like learning about 10,000 rounds of ammunition fired at move. I have no idea that, but they said. They also said that this was criminal behavior. And one of the ways that they could classify it as criminal behavior is if the medical examiner's office classified it as homicide. But the medical examiner's office decided to classify it as an accident. The cause of death of 11 people that were bombed, shot, and burned, and then decapitated was an accident. It wasn't until 2022 that we got the medical examiner's office to correct the record and call it what it was and change it to death, to homicide. And they only did that. They only changed the cause of death for 2 people, John Africa and Frank Africa. And the reason is because as the nephew of John Africa, can speak for our family, but because other families are unaware of this, their records have not been changed. But it's criminal behavior. And this is why Yvonne said accountability. Jenna Mange and Alan Mann needs to be arrested. They broke the law and they should be arrested. Any other questions?
Brother Mike, can you give the public some information on how to get a hold of the MOVE organization and how they can support you and the family in getting Delisha Africa's remains back?
Thank you for that question. I am the legacy director for the MOVE organization. As the closest descendant to John Africa, who created the organization and wants to keep our name alive, I've been nominated, unfortunately for me, designated. Nominated. People can contact me. I guess the best way is through social media, Mike Africa Jr. on Instagram. And if people want to send me an email to correspondence, it's mikeafricajr@gmail.com.
Do you plan on any legal action moving forward as far as civil suit?
That's a good question. I think that for now, we're going to try some good old-fashioned street action. If the legal aspect comes into play and we feel it be necessary, we will. But as of now, yeah, street action.
I have read that Janet Mom has sued certain individuals for defamation of character. What's going on with that lawsuit?
Yes, I've heard that Janet Mange has filed a lawsuit against, I don't know how many names are on the list, but it's a lot. And Penn is part of it, and some of the activists from our community are part of it, for defamation and libel and all of these other things. I was kind of strange. She didn't put my name. She didn't put my name on the list. I've said a lot of things about her. My name wasn't on the list. I was a little bit surprised about that. But yeah, there's a lot of people that's names are on that list, and she's trying to say that she didn't do anything wrong. I don't even understand how a person could think that. I don't care what institution you're a part of. I don't understand how a person we know that people donate their organs. They consent to donating their organs. You write on your license, on your driver's license, organ donor, right? You're willing to have your organs harvested for other people to use them for their health and their family's health and whatnot. We get all that. The issue is not what she did as much as it was without consent. That's the issue. It's like a rapist. If it's consensual, there's no problem. But if it's forced, it's a rape. And it's a violation. And it is a crime. And what she did was a rape. It was a violation. It was a crime. And if she doesn't understand that, then I question the judgment of Penn for hiring her and employing her. How can you? The National Anthropological Association of America has rules. They have rules. The first one being do no harm. One of them is without consent. You can't do this without consent. I'm paraphrasing, of course. There are 5 very specific, from 1 to 5, very basic ones. She violated every single one of them. So, So she's suing people. She's saying that this was, you know, you're defaming her and she didn't steal anything. But I bet you Consuela Africa begs to differ. Lionel, the brother of Katricia, the brother of Zanetta, that they're not even talking about, but we have evidence, we have documentation to prove it. They're not even addressing it. And so she's suing people, but she's the one that needs to be punished for this because she's the criminal that did it.
I have a question for Councilmember Diana. I was wondering if the city is taking any steps to hold kind of measure, and if there's anything more that the city can do. You know, obviously there was the whole separate issue of the mental health office, but specifically with that.
It was hard for me to hear the end of your question, but I think I got it. I'm not aware. We've not taken any formal steps of accountability towards Penn. You know, I have been involved as involved as possible with this from the beginning, advocating for justice for the MOVE organization and a change in how the Penn Museum operates. It's unclear to me what type of other formal actions the city can take, but definitely open to that.
Yeah. So my question for you is,
For who?
can you hear me?
Your question is for who?
For you. What would it mean to you to have your home on the city track? And when returned to you, what would you do with it?
It's a good question. Well, I tell you what it would mean to me. Let me say this. That was not my house. It was my family's home. It was my aunt's home. My great aunt lived in East James, Africa. It was her house. What it would mean, I can't tell you what it would mean to her. I can't articulate the joy and relief that it would mean to her. On her deathbed, I asked her, "There's anything you say you want, I'll make sure I do it, whatever it is." And she said, "I want my house back." My question to her when she said that was, why? With so much death and destruction around that house, why do you want it back? And her simple answer was, because it's mine. For me, I didn't want the house back. And when she told me that's what she wanted, I was angry. I was angry at her. Because if she asked me to do something that she can't do for herself, because of what my family means to me, I can't say no. So what it would mean to her is different than what it would mean to me. What it means to me is a step in the direction of trying to honor my family and give them a little bit of justice that they never got. And the fact that the city of Philadelphia will not support, or some members of the city of Philadelphia has refused to give us any donations toward reclaiming our home that they took from us. My aunt bought that house in 1958 for $8,000 with her and her husband. They didn't have a mortgage. When it was bombed and taken from us for eminent domain, they gave her a check for $2,000. She bought it in 58. With inflation, by the time from 58 to 85, the house was worth way more than $8,000. They gave her a check for $2,000 that she never cashed. Because she said she never accepted that it wasn't hers. The second part of your question, what would I do with it? Well, you know what? I would love to make a memorial, some type of way to respect and honor our family and the neighbors in that community. There are over 20, if my information is correct, and this information might be dated, because there's a lot of major changes happening in the city of Philadelphia, thanks to Councilwoman Jamie Gauthier and other members of the city council. But my last count was there are over 2,200 statues or monuments in the city of Philadelphia, and only 6 represent Black people. What is the percentage of Black people in the city? Definitely not that type of disparity. And the 6, one is a bust of Dr. King, which is about that big. Another one is a faceless woman on Penn campus. Another one is the recent one, which is Octavius Cato, which is on the other side of this building here. We have a statue of a fictional character named Rocky Balboa that gets millions of visits every year. Joe Frazier, the first fighter to ever beat Muhammad Ali, who's the greatest of all time, just very recently got a statue, and he don't get nowhere near millions of visits a year. Most people don't even know where it is. And so I think that here's a fun fact. I was talking to former Mayor Wilson Good the other day. And he told me something. He said, in Germany, there are monuments and markers of violence all over Germany to indicate what happened. And this is a way that people have tried to remember what happened so that we can move forward the right way. It's like when you go to the hospital. What's the first thing they ask you? They pull up your medical history. They need to know what has happened so that they can know how to move forward. And so, making our house a place where people can learn and remember and mourn, I think is a way that we can use that as a tool to move forward in the right way. And not just from the city side. Because Move did things that wasn't so great too. As a child who grew up in it, I ain't the champion of everything Move did. But there's nothing that Move could have done that deserved a bomb. And 10,000 rounds of ammunition. And as one of the children, I didn't deserve to be picked up and thrown across streets or put in an orphanage and my dreadlocks ripped out of my hair by sadistic caretakers, right? So, but that information needs to be known. We need to get a school curriculum. Philadelphia needs a school curriculum. How are we still talking about George Washington? Who that? Right? We're still talking about Thomas Jefferson, Paul Revere. Really? Come on, man. The redcoats are coming. The police are coming. So we need to talk about these things. And that's what I would hope to do with Osage Avenue. But I definitely don't want to do anything that would re-harm the community of Osage Avenue. So I would definitely, whatever I do, whatever we decide to do, will definitely be in working with the community so that we are not re-harming the community and repeating what happened that led up to what happened. Any last questions? Last question.
This is for Yvonne. She's willing and concerned. Excuse me. How do you want your sister to be remembered?
Give me a moment. I'm gonna flash this smile. I've been told I have a pretty smile. It's my daddy's mouth and teeth. Delisha had my smile. Very sarcastic even at a young age. Very playful, very joyous, and not one to play games even at a young age. The way we coveted having the beginnings of our relationship and my visits to Philadelphia, I remember holding her. I remember us saying that we were going to be the best teachers and doctors because people needed a whole healing. And we were taught big words at young ages. We were taught to understand that our bodies were temples. And we were taught to share and spread love. and I thought I would crumble up and die August 9th, 1979. I was homeschooled, so I had just started school. I didn't even really understand school training. I was world travel at a young age. And so I had just started school, and I remember them trying to get me out of the school building and going past, looking at the black and white television of what was going down August 8th. I remember seeing my dad crawl out of the house on TV. And the reporter at the time saying, "Oh my God, they're beating him, they're beating him. He's not armed, he's shirtless and barefoot." And I thought, well, that's the worst that can happen. And they told me, I remember the trial. To this day, I can't take the train because we took the train right here for the trial. I don't like it. And Delisha and I wrote. We did not talk on the phone, you know, it's before cell phones. And I told her, I said, I'm gonna come back and see you the next time I'm going to visit my dad. I was 17, and I didn't get a chance to come back. So I have her picture, not the picture that you all see in the newspaper. I have drawings from our original roots. We're Afro-Cuban, you know, so one guy, he did a painting of us the last time we were together. And I remember thinking at that time that I was gonna grow to be so tall, because I was very much taller than her at the time. And I think I stopped growing at that particular age physically, but my heart closed at that age physically. And I'm grateful at this time, only at this time, to refine love with my fiance, Jacob Blake. And I'm hopeful that I can reopen my heart again. And I thought in 2020 it was broken, June 15th, 2020 when my father passed. 2021, I thought I can't go through this again, but now it's done. Mike is aware of this, but I did get some of the remains from Penn. I spent over $60-something thousand getting them analyzed, only to discover they were dog remains when I was told it was my sister. And I'm an entrepreneur 32 years. I'm not about to spend another anything or even a thought. It's like a movie. Give her back, release Mumia. What else do we have to give? Remember my smile. It's hers.
Thanks, everyone.